In Mark 2:14, Jesus just called Matthew, the tax collector. And then in Matthew 2:15, we see something incredible happening. So Mark 2:15, let's read. Kai ginetai katakeisai auton entewoi ki autu. Kai polloi telonai kai amartaloi sunaneketo to Jesu katois mathetais autu. Esangar polloi kai ekolutzen auto. So the verse is really long this time. It starts with the usual kai, and actually you have many kais here: one, two, three, four, and five. Okay, this conjunction and that we recognize all the time. The first sentence, which is the first line here, has two verbs. So verb one, which holds another verb, this infinitive here, infinitive, and it's a construction that we're gonna see later, where the subject is in the accusative, so not in the nominative. It's the typical form of an infinitive clause where the subject is in the accusative case. Then you have this prepositional phrase ente oikia, which is the place where Jesus was, and then you have this personal pronoun in the genitive that we've seen so many times, of him or his. Then you have the second sentences. The second sentence, where the subject is this polloi telonai kai hamartaloi. So this is the whole subject. There are two type of individuals, the telonai and the hamartaloi. So these are the subjects, and there's also an adjective here, polloi, which is connected to telonai, to the first type of individuals. But it could also refer to both. No problem with that. Sunanekento is the verb of the second sentence, connected to the two subjects, telonai kai hamartaloi. And then there is this dative here, to Yesu, and singular, right? So this dative singular, referring to Jesus, of course. And then tois matetais is a dative plural. Okay, autu is this same autu is a genitive personal pronoun, his, referring to Jesus and his disciples. And then two last brief sentences, esan gar poloi, where again you have this poloi. This is similar to this. In this particular case, it's used as a pronoun, so it's the subject of this small sentence, and esan is the verb number three. Gar is just it's just an adverb that we're gonna see what it means. And in the last sentence, again, there's only a verb four, that is connected to this auto in the dative singular that refers again to Jesus. All right, let's start translating. So, and ginetai, so this is indicative present, okay, in the third person singular of the verb ginomai. So, ginomai means to be or to become, okay? So in this particular case, the expression ginetai means it happens, it occurs, it comes to pass, okay? And it comes to pass what? And you have this infinitive expression where we already said the subject, we're going to find it in the accusative case. So this literally means him, but in this case it's the subject. So it's he, meaning Jesus, okay? Jesus. So, and it happens that Jesus, and you have the infinitive verb here, katakeisai, you see this ending eisai, which indicates an infinitive form of the verb, and the verb itself is katakeimai. Katakeimai. So the verb katakeimai, it's made up of two pieces, kata, which means generally down, okay, motion, that it's downward motion, kata, and keimai, which means to sit or to recline, right? To recline. This is the verb that it's generally used to understand the action of eating, okay? Because in those times, people, especially for big parties where there are a lot of people invited, They were not sitting down, they were actually almost lying down on the floor to eat, right? So there was the practice of reclining for dinner. Okay, so it's the verb that is used for having dinner. Okay, so and it happens that hey, Jesus was reclining, was having dinner, and te oikia autu, where so n is the preposition that wants the dative after itself. So you see this a or this alpha with the iota subscript. This is a feminine dative, right? Te is the definite article. Oikia is the noun, is the house, right? Literally means in the house, autu, of him, in his house. It's talking about Matthew. So basically, Jesus is invited to have dinner by Matthew in his house. Okay. So, and it happens that he was reclining in his house. So he was having dinner, he was eating in his house. Kai, and we said there are two subjects here, telone and hamartaloi. Now, telone are the tax collectors. Tax collectors. Okay. And then hamartaloi, you remember probably from the previous verses, amartiai are the sins. So hamartaloi are the sinners. Sinners. Okay. So these are the tax collector, Kai, and the sinners. And they were poloi, many. There were many. Okay. So, and many tax collectors and sinners soon anekento. Right. This is very hard to pronounce. Is the same verb as katakesai, almost the same verb. There is some preposition, there are different. You have the preposition sun, the preposition ana, and then the verb kemai. Okay, so if this verb was katakemai, so the preposition in front was kata, here you have two prepositions in front of the same verb, sun, which means together, and ana, which generally indicates a movement upward. Now, in this particular case, it doesn't really affect the meaning of the verb. And then you have the verb kemai, no kaimai, kemai, which again means to recline. And this sun indicates together. Okay, they were all together having dinner together. Okay, and so we can translate with the same verb. It's the same action: having dinner, having and eating together, reclining together. So, and many tax collector and sinners were eating with. So this sun preposition, it's basically attached to to Yesu kai tois mathetais. So sun generally wants the dative, and in fact you see it here, right? To Yesu kai tois mathetais autu. So they were having dinner with son to Yesu, Jesus, right? This is Jesus, with Jesus, kai, and tois mathetais. So this is dative plural in the masculine, okay? Dative plural masculine. Because they were having dinner not just with Jesus, but also with the mathetais, the disciples out of him, right? Of Jesus, his disciples. Okay, so there were not just Matthew, not just Jesus eating in Matthew's house, but also there were a lot of tax collectors and other types of sinners that were eating together with Jesus, and not just with Jesus, but with all his disciples. Esangar poloi. Gar is like in fact, isn't, this is imperfect of the verb to be, okay, is the imperfect tense, third person plural of the verb to be. So they were, okay, poloi, many. For there were many. So there were many of tax collectors and sinners all together. Okay, Mark wants to make the point that there were a lot of them there. Okay, he repeats it twice. Poloi, poloi. In fact, there were many. Kai, and ekoluzon comes from the verb that we saw in Mark 2:14, akolutheo, which means to follow. To follow. So, and this is in the imperfect tense, so same tense, third person plural. They were following. They were following auto, dative, right? They were following him. So the whole translation of the verse is, and it happens to be that he was having dinner in his house. And many tax collectors and sinners were eating with Jesus and his disciples, for there were many, and they were all following him. So, this is the crazy thing that happens after Jesus calls Matthew the tax collector. Not only Matthew follows him, but all the other tax collectors starts following him. And there were many, Mark says, and not only tax collectors, but sinners in general. Jesus seems to be a sort of magnet for sinners that starts following him because he says he came to cure the sick, not the righteous. And this thing is the very thing that makes the Pharisees furious. But the question is, does the mercy of God make us furious? And if it does, maybe we should reconsider the gospel.